Welcome, welcome, business owning moms, to my coveted maternity leave planning roadmap. This is episode 5 of our maternity leave roadmap series takeover on the podcast. If you have been following along, thank you so much. I, again, have just been so excited to do this little takeover. And honestly, the roadmap is one of my favorite things that I've ever created as a professional. So, this topic, this time, is a day in the life. I get so many messages from moms who are like, I literally have never delegated successfully, or I've asked somebody to do something for me, and it always comes back a little bit less than what I expect. And I'll tell you something, you are not alone. I have done it 1,000 times. My colleagues who've built gigantic businesses, it's so common. And I think that there's a little tiny hack that I'm going to teach you today that I think will help bring a little bit more clarity to how you can delegate effectively. So I'm going to go ahead and humble brag for a second. We have helped dozens, actually, probably hundreds at this point, of businesses get on the same page, really get standards of operating together, put key systems in place, and be able to scale the company without all of the headache and the friction that comes along with, mismatched expectations or things done different ways among the entire organization. Standardizing outcomes is one of the first things that you can get right in operations. And so showing somebody a day in the life is really, really important. Last episode, we had you go through and really think through, what is my hourly rate? What can I afford to delegate or outsource? And this episode is going to be a little bit more of the tactical, like, how do I actually start doing that? So let's just say, for example, you've noticed that you're doing a lot of project management work and you've got somebody on your team that might be a great candidate for project management. What I typically will start to do is I'll start to compile what I call the day in the life. So, what am I doing? How am I doing it? What does it look like when I'm done? And I use a really incredible tool called Loom, LOOM.com. I am not sponsored by Loom, although Loom or anybody from Loom, if you're listening to this, I would love to be sponsored by you. I use this platform almost, I don't know, every hour, I would say, all the time. Whenever I'm working or I want to show my team something that I'm working on, or I want to clarify something for someone that I'm working with, for our clients in delivery, any of that stuff, I use Loom. And it's really, really incredible tool because you can literally, especially if you are an online business owner or you do any work sitting at your desk, which I imagine most of us have some facet of our business, especially administratively, that is sitting in front of a computer, we can start to record our screen with this wonderful tool. And then your team can see exactly what you are doing to get the results that you desire. They can also see the exact outcome that you are producing with your work. So I use this all the time. I use it for one off tasks. I use it for process creation. So if I'm making a new thing and I want to standardize the way that that thing gets approached, I'll go ahead and do that. I use it for feedback also, because oftentimes when you give written or verbal feedback, you don't have the opportunity to like really think through it. And it also doesn't get documented entirely. Like if you're having a one-on-one, one-off conversation with somebody, it isn't on a Zoom meeting, or maybe the meeting's not recorded. You can start to actually build on the processes. You can also answer some of those frequently asked questions or common things that maybe you overlooked. And I love having a visual representation of specifically what you need to be doing in order to get success. So I have Loom right on my Chrome extension. And whenever I open up my browser tab, or most of my work is done online and at my computer. So I'll open it up and I'll just start to take a look at what I've got going on my list today. And if it is something that I can get offloaded, so see last episode about what to offload, I just start to record my screen. I'm like, great. Okay. I'm filling out these forms, or I'm responding to this type of email, or I'm jumping in on project management, or I'm filing administrative stuff. This is all in the list of stuff that I could get off my plate for a little bit cheaper. I know exactly what teammate. And so what I'll typically do is I'll say, hey, listen, we talked about this. I'll usually have a conversation with a teammate before I start to send them over some of these screen grabs. Even if you don't have a teammate yet, file them into one place. So Loom does a really nice job of creating a library of videos. You can also create a Google Doc of like Allie's task list before she goes out on maternity leave, plug those links right on in there. And then that way, when you do have somebody come into the business or you do have someone that gives you the thumbs up that you already work with, they can jump into the document and be like, great, I'm going to go ahead and watch all these videos. They can ask the questions that they need to ask. You can come in and supplement with either more information, more training, whatever that looks like for you guys. And then you have a jumping off point for how these tasks are supposed to look, right? Because I think that what ends up happening is basically two really big things. First, we're not super clear what we want to even get off of our plate. So we say, hey, can you just come manage our social media? And there's no really clear list of stuff that needs to happen. And the second is that the clarity around those tasks is a little bit nuanced. So you say, hey, go respond to comments. And that feels really straightforward, at least what you might be asking in your brain feels really straightforward, but then to somebody else, it is interpreted a different way. So I see this in organizations all the time. Interpretation becomes kind of a silent killer because then what happens is we don't want to sacrifice the timeline or the work or the tenacity. You've got good people who want to do great things and they really just don't get the vision yet. And so I find that Loom is a great way to kind of tether our vision to the tactical outcomes that we want just by kind of dictating and showing somebody like, hey, when I jump into Instagram and I'm responding to comments, here's what I'm looking for. Here are the type of things I do. And here's what I would say to somebody in this way. It's a great resource for, again, standardizing, operating, and creating new procedures. It's a great way for feedback and ongoing training. I'm a huge, huge fan. And I think it's one of the easiest ways I've found to start getting that delegation muscle in place. So, if you want to go ahead and start to get some of those tasks off of your plate, whether you have a teammate that you've identified that can take some of this on, or you do not, and maybe you plan to pull somebody into the business later on before you go out on maternity leave, start compiling your, list of Loom videos now. I always say, and my team jokes with me in operations agency about how much I say this, but when in doubt, Loom it out. I find it's better to have a record of it than none at all. And then that way, even if you do need to answer some questions on maternity leave, you don't have to go in and make new videos or go deep dive into something because you can say, hey, I've got a Loom for that. And here it is. Let me know what questions you have. So, total productivity hack. Hope that was helpful. And I'll see you guys in episode 6.